Kingdom Rush is the board game version of an app game, one, by the way, that I hadn't heard about before I played the game, and one that I haven't played, so I cannot compare the two. But the board game version which I played is a game of tower defense. However, these are not defenseless towers. They're not just gonna stand there and cry and hope for somebody to help them and save them. These towers are very active. They are used to shoot different types of projectiles against enemies that will be walking down a path. You're trying to destroy a certain number of those enemies before they walk through the whole path and exit the board. So it's more like a game of path defense, really, but still. Cooperative game can be played solitaire by a single player controlling one hero, I guess, but I played it solitaire with two heroes, so it seemed to make more sense the way. Important thing, the game is on Kickstarter right now. So my review comes out before the game is formally published. In fact, I played a prototype that was sent to me by the publisher. I was contacted by the publisher, asked me, hey, would you like to take a look at this game? It seemed interesting, and so I said, yeah, sure, why not? And I played it, but I want to tell you it's a preview only in the sense that it comes before the game. Other than that, it is a review. This video is unpaid. I didn't get any money from the publisher. I didn't ask for any. And that keeps me free. I don't wanna feel that my opinions are influenced in any way. So I played the game, I'm gonna show you how the game works, and I'm gonna tell you my conclusions, what I think about the game. So for all intents and purposes, as usual, this is a review, free of charge and opinionated, because that's the kind of video I like to make. Each player has a personal board, such as this one, which is used to organize different components and also as a player aid. Each hero has a basic attack. Here you're told the distance up to which the attack can hit. In this case, it will be 2 spaces, and that is counting from the miniature of the hero that will be placed on the board, which I will show you in a bit. Here you have the tile that is used in that attack. This would be the tile for this attack. These tiles are placed on cards that show enemy icons. You're trying to cover all of the enemy icons on an enemy card. When all of the enemies on a card are not visible because they're covered, then the card is defeated. And this icon here tells you that you can rotate the tile. With other attacks, you may be stuck with a specific orientation. Here we have 2 slots that are used for special attacks. You start without them, you can acquire them during the game, and then usually when you use an attack, you flip it. When you use a special ability, you flip it face down, and then you need to spend actions to be able to use it again. Each player also has a card representing themselves, which you play to indicate that you activated your hero, and when you activate your hero, you can move the hero and perform an action, and then move with the hero. Here we have health points. When they go down to 0, the hero is dead, but the hero then respawns, which is good. However, that wastes a whole turn, and that can be pretty tragic in the economy of the game. Speed of the hero, number of spaces up to which the hero can move during a movement. Turn sequence, which may appear a little convoluted, and that is because it is, but after a while it'll become familiar to you. Then we have tower cards. There's a number and a specific type or number and specific composition of cards that you start with, depending on number of players, and these cards represent towers. Each tower card tells you, like the basic attacks, the distance up to which it can attack, 2 spaces, adjacent, and the tile that is used. This one here, for example, shoots this tile here in that orientation, doesn't have the free orientation icon. This tile shoots this tower shoots that tower in that orientation. This one places a militiaman, a soldier, on an enemy card, covering an enemy icon, and then also soldiers will have an effect during movement. They pin down enemy units, or to say enemy cards. Now let's have a look at the board. The board is built using these tiles that you see here. They're placed in different configurations based on the scenario. Here I set up scenario number 3 for 2 players. Each composition, each organization of the board will tell you how the landscape works. We'll have a path, we'll have a finishing line. Enemy cards will move on the path and they're trying to go through the enemy line, the finish line. When an enemy card, those are enemy cards, goes through here, then you remove a heart from the land for each enemy icon that is still visible. If these hearts are all removed, the players lose the game. The players need to destroy a number of specially vicious enemy cards to be able to win the game. When they destroy the last required to win the scenario, they still need to go through that turn, complete the turn, and at the point, if the land is still standing, they win the game. Now, here you also see these transparent elements here. They're color-coded and they indicate the areas in which players can play, basically build and then use their tower cards, the ones that I showed you earlier. For example, this space here is green and this one is green. This is where this here can play tower cards. Those other ones are red and this is where this other here can place cards, tower cards. You have, as I explained earlier, miniature indicating where the heroes are, and then you also have enemy cards. Enemy cards go on trays, such as this one, and you draw them from a deck, which is built in a specific way. Some cards are normal hordes, and some horde cards, and some are portal cards that are particularly tough. They can be attacked only by certain towers. Each tower has a small number here at the bottom, and that represents the level of the tower. You always start with level 1 towers. You can upgrade them during the game. And the number that you see here is the level of towers that is required for a tower to attack this tile. So for example, only tower level 3 can attack this tile, and after they do so, they are destroyed. That's pretty bad. Also, heroes can interact and engage with a portal, but they take damage. So it's really, really vicious. Now, the turn structure, what happens? A turn starts with the players performing actions, and a player can play tower cards from their hand and or quote-unquote play their cards, but again, it's pretty much just a reminder that you're taking your action. When you place a card on the board, you simply do it in one of the available spaces. Suppose, for example, that actually we have we have this hero here. We have the green hero has this card here, and we'll place it here in this orientation. Then the tower shoots this tile here in that orientation and can be placed anywhere on that board or on that enemy tray, also because 1, 2, that is the distance. And suppose that we want to put it here. Then maybe the hero will play another card, this one for example, up here. And that card places this tile in that orientation, and we decide to put it here for whatever reason, or here, or here. There you go. Then, remember, you can also activate your hero. Your hero can move and can then land on a card. The hero can also perform the basic attack. Suppose, for example, this hero, before moving there, shoots this basic attack here and places it here. And then we are like this. And then maybe another hero will come here and will use other attacks. And basically at the end, what happens at the end is that everything is covered. Suppose, and this hero also comes here and then uses a melee attack, which places a token on the same tray as the hero. Boom, there you go. We don't need to cover every space in the tray. We only need to cover every enemy space. So now we know that that tray will be destroyed at the end. So this is pretty much how you play your towers, how you use your towers again to boom, place tiles on enemy trays, and so on and so forth. Other things that you can do. You remember I told you that towers have levels? You can upgrade towers by really cooperating with other people. That is, instead of playing a tower on the board, you give it to the player to the left. And if there is a player sitting on your right that wants to upgrade towers, then they will give them to you. You simply store them next to your player board for the time being, and then later in the turn there is a phase in which player can upgrade towers. What you do is that you look at this area here where you store the different types of towers in order. So for example, for this type of tower here, the one that launches range attacks, see, we place 1, 2, 3, 4. The one that produces soldiers, footmen, militia, footmen, and knights, etc., etc. Again, levels are 1, 2, 3, and 4. What you do when you upgrade a card, you take the card that you receive from the player to your right, you discard it, and you take the next level of the same type of tower. And now you have better towers. You can also spend resources, in particular gems or resource or currency that you use to buy in-game benefits, and you can spend them to buy towers, but when you buy a tower, you can only buy it at level 1. You can choose which level 1 you want, but there's no way of getting towers above 1 other than to upgrading them. So that takes turns, because it takes at least a turn for each upgrade that you get. Remember also, think ahead, because if you want a tower level 2, you can't just have it. You have to, as a player to your right, to get that card and then give it to you. So really there is some interesting, there are some interesting incentives here to coordinate actions. After all players have taken all their actions, then you destroy horde trays that are completely full, returning the tiles to wherever it is they came from. Now the tray is discarded. The card produces a number of gems indicated on the back. And after that, you advance horde trays. You advance horde trays advance towards the exit. Interesting enough, if a tray finds their path blocked, they will simply leapfrog over, so you can't use a tray to stop another one. And so they move towards that area. Again, they're trying to exit the board. Then you spawn new horde trays. Simply draw a card from a deck that you prepare specifically, place it on a tray, and voila, we have more enemies. After this is when you upgrade the received tower cards, and then you pick up your tower cards to prepare your hand for next turn. You buy tower cards in your abilities, again, by spending crystals, and pretty much this is the idea, which sounds again convoluted, but the idea is first the heroes will act moving around, attacking towers personally, and attacking enemy cards personally, and by using towers. Then there will be all of this upkeeping with destroying towers, destroying horde cards, moving horde cards, spawning horde cards, buying advantages, and this is how the turn works. Continue like this until you defeat all portals. Remember those purple-backed evil cards. And then survive until the end of the turn in which you defeated the last portal, you win the game. Otherwise, the realm is destroyed by the horde cards and the players lose the game. So my group found that the game was good, but my group didn't really warm up to it. No one said, oh, I hated it. But after we played a game, they didn't feel any particular desire to try it again, to play it again. So then I played Solitaire, and I played all of the scenarios that come in the booklet that was given to me. That comes with the prototype. I like the game Solitaire a little bit better. Again, I don't know if it's because of the mechanics or simply because in my group I didn't feel the love from other people, and somewhat that made the atmosphere just feel a little bit lukewarm. People were kind of a little bit, again, unexcited about it. They thought it was good, but not great. What is it that is good and what is it that prevented, at least in my group, the game from from being maybe better than it is. The good stuff is, yay, Tetris and fantasy. In a sense, everything to me is better when we have fantasy, combat, monsters, spells, and stuff like that. I'm just such a sucker for the genre. And I like geometric spatial puzzles. I played a lot of board games that more or less reinvent the Tetris mechanic, and they do it very well, and very often it feels pretty dry, but that comes with, well, the kind of mechanic. Here there is an attempt to put together mechanic, dry geometric mechanic of Tetris with theme, and that to me works pretty well. Actually, I did feel that I was thinking about the spatial relationships and covering those areas, etc., etc. It was Tetris on a board, and that's fine. But at the same time, it made sense that a volley of arrows would go in a certain way, even that a wave of magic blast would have a certain shape. Because it's magic, what do I know what it's supposed to look like? I felt that the integration of theme with the mechanics worked surprisingly well. And then it's just fun to try with different characters, with different abilities, different scenarios, etc., etc. The heroes also don't feel too fiddly. It feels like some abilities are a little fiddlier than others. But I like the fact that the game still, with a little bit of fiddliness maybe, in the rules and in the mechanics, gives you good flexibility because you have different towers, you can place them in different ways, you can choose to upgrade them differently, you can negotiate with other people. I wanted to give me that tower, then the next turn I'll be able to this, I'll be able to do that. That idea that you don't upgrade your own towers, you upgrade someone else's towers, to me really works in making sure that the game is cooperative, so not like multiplayer solo. It really encourages coordination, it really encourages the simple fact of apparent generosity. You're still working for the higher goal of having the entire group, including you, winning, but it's fun. It's fun just to give resources to other people to receive. Oh, thank you for the tower, to receive that. It creates a nice interaction there. What seemed to hold the game back from greatness to us was simply how logistically cumbersome it was. Pretty much the consensus was, yes, it's a good game, but you do have to move a lot of stuff around. There is a lot of stuff that you need to do for this fantasy Tetris to happen. A lot of components, bits and pieces you need to keep track of, lots of different phases that you need to resolve exactly in that order. We just felt like, okay, we need to place all of these pieces, do this little thing, then put every piece away. They need to go back to the right pool, otherwise we're not gonna find them. We just felt that there is a lot of work that you have to do logistically to make the design work. And that is why, although you should know by now that I like board games a lot, and usually I play more board games than video games. Well, not usually, I just play more analog games than video games. Nevertheless, there are just certain designs that do work well in a video game format, precisely because there are certain cases in which it's good to have a machine handling a lot of different parts of the design that maybe are just trivial or just boring, like moving things around from tray to tray, from pool to supply, etc., etc., etc. Now, of course, in a sense, every game would be easier if, in fact, you press a button and the computer does everything else, but basically it's the trade-off. Every game that I prefer to play in analog format rather than a video game is because the fun that I have from manipulating those components makes up for the logistical cumbersomeness. This one I did, even if I didn't know that this was a video game, I thought, well, this maybe would benefit from being a video game, where I just decide where my tower is, I click, and then I click and click and all the pieces go there. There just seems to be a lot of pieces, and that's not trivial. That is something that makes the game drag a little bit, slows it down. And in general, somehow, although again I like theme and mechanics, I don't know what it is that is missing. I don't know what kind of spark was missing there that made the game, again, okay, not fully exciting. Maybe we didn't find it all that hard, so there wasn't that moment of incredible tension. The times that we almost lost, we thought that were quote-unquote almost like unfair because the difficulty ramped up so massively. when the portals came up, and then you have this moment of lulls and lulling and lull, and then again massive scrambling to stop the portal, as opposed to, say, other games, cooperative games also, in which the difficulty increases more gradually, and then it has, precisely because of that, a crescendo of excitement. I didn't like all that much the fact that that the portals destroy your towers. It took you a while to upgrade them. It just feels a little gratuitous and harsh that you have to lose them. I wish there were different ways in which the portals proved difficult to destroy. And finally, although yes, I do like the fact that that you contribute to other people's towers, to upgrade other people's towers, there are also cases in which I found myself in certain turns not doing really much, because my tower I gave to somebody else, and then there was a tower that it wasn't all that interesting to play, wasn't very effective, then I gave that one too, and then there's only one logical thing for my hero to do. So in a certain sense, I guess that also there is that. Because of the components, you have a lot of work that you're doing to make the design work, and you have certain turns that are exciting, but certain turns that are incredibly harsh and difficult, and they reduce your resources, and then they force you to spend some turns that feel more trivial as you're rebuilding your engine. And then there are just certain turns in which there aren't a lot of interesting decisions to make. Again, in a sense, when I played the game Solitaire, I enjoyed it more than playing it with my friends. Maybe it's a game that works better that way, but then when I had to put the game away, I put on an audiobook, and I did that long work of doing that, during game night, to put it all away without messing everything up, to set up another game. That, for example, took a little longer than desirable. And as a solitaire player, I could enjoy the puzzle. I didn't have to worry about anything else. I could take my time. I could really think of it as an abstract puzzle, and it worked well, better that way. So in general, Kingdom Rush, my group and I found it to be good. That's not a negative thing, but also it lacks the enthusiasm that so often I have when I review games. It is a game that we found okay. We didn't hate it, we didn't love it, we played it. I don't know that my group will want to play it again. Actually, that's a rhetorical question or a rhetorical statement, pretty much not. I may play it again as a solitaire game if I have time and the inclination to set up this big production for what is finally, ultimately a small Tetris game. In conclusion, one word for this game is good.